Hey guys, Michael here. Today I'm reviewing the Casio EX-F1, which is an interesting device by Casio that runs for about $1,000 that combines, I would say, the best of both worlds, giving you a high definition camcorder as well as a pretty full featured camera. Now just so you know, this camera can record in HD, and that's what's recording this video right now. So this is a 6 megapixel complementary metal oxide semiconductor. That's what CMOS stands for. So it shoots at 6 megapixels. I'm not sure if I just said 7, but that would be 6. 6 megapixels. Now when you're shooting images, it can save them in JPEG and RAW file formats to your SD and SDHC card. For RAW, it's using the Adobe Systems Digital Negative format, which is DNG, in case you were wondering. Now, it can also record video in HD, and we'll get to more of the file formats in a second. And it records audio with 2 onboard microphones in stereo mode, which is kind of nice to see just preloaded onto the camera. You don't have to buy any accessories for that. Now, when you're taking images, you can take images at 60 frames per second, which is kind of nice because that allows you to take 60 images in 1 second, or to take 1 image per second for a minute. Depending on what kind of pictures you're taking, you can adjust that accordingly, but it's nice to have that option. So it can record in full HD and I believe 720p also, if you want to bump the quality down and save more to your card. But where this camera gets its bread and butter is at its slow motion recording. So if you want to record at 300 frames per second, which I think is the sweet spot, the image resolution is going to be 512 by 384. If you want to record at 600 frames per second, you're looking at 432 by 192. And if you want to record at this is basically, their flagship thing, 1200 frames per second, you're looking at 336 by 96 as your resolution. That gets pretty small, and we're going to touch on that in a second. Now when you're taking pictures, you have a few options. Flash modes, you have auto off and on, as well as red eye reduction and a soft flash. There's also focusing modes, auto, infinity, macro, and manual, and ISO 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, and ISO auto. And what's really nice about this is since it's a 6 megapixel sensor, noise isn't really that big of an issue. So if you keep it below 400 or 800, probably 400 and below, you're not really going to have any issues with noise. Also, with the flash, it really is pretty bright, and when you're taking video, it just pops open and just spews LED light at you. And your flash can take, I believe, the flash can shoot about 7 frames per second as well. Now, it's a 2.8-inch LCD on the back of your camera for when you're checking out your video, when you're shooting it as well. It also has a viewfinder, but that doesn't really work, and it's not a real viewfinder, it's an electronic viewfinder. Capping this all off is a 1-year warranty. Now, this is kind of my take on this camera as a whole. It's better than the sum of its parts. Now I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, but if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm saying individually, this camera isn't going to beat a dedicated DSLR in taking images when it comes to quality, when it comes to expandability, when it comes to just generally speaking. It's not going to beat a DSLR, particularly because a DSLR that's probably superior to this camera will cost you less money. And also, it's not going to beat an HD camcorder. I have here the Canon Vixia HF100, and I have to say I kind of prefer using that over this. I just think the quality looks a little bit better, and it's a little bit easier for me to use. But together, it's a nice and attractive package, hence better than the sum of its parts. So when Casio combined it, that was a poor word to choose, but when Casio put it all together and chose all the components, they really made a great product, and it's really an attractive device. So let's just start off with my pros. First of all, it has a 12 times optical zoom with a CMOS anti-shake. Now what's really cool, first of all, 12 times is a pretty nice zoom, particularly in a prosumer consumer level camera. What's nice about the anti-shake is Of course, you can turn it off, you can turn it on, but you can also turn it on to compensate for what you're shooting if it's moving. So instead of just a little bit of hand motion when you're taking the picture, if what you're targeting and what you're shooting at moves a little bit, it can compensate for that also, which is really cool that Casio has this. It's an interesting feature that you're not going to see all the time, and you probably wouldn't necessarily go out and buy the camera for it, but it's just a nice thing to put into that package. Again, better than the sum of its parts. Also, full HD recording, like I mentioned, 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second, which is pretty nice. Again, you can, if you want to lower your resolution, you can go up to 1200 frames per second, and that does look pretty interesting if you ask me. And like I've said, strong flash that shoots at 7 frames per second. It also has something called pre-record movie, which helps you to get the video you want even if you're too slow to press the record button. That's just how I would sum it up. How they sum it up is pre-record movie continuously refreshes a 5-second buffer with action captured by the camera's lens. Then when you press the record button, the current contents of the buffer are saved, followed by real-time recording. Pre-record movie also can be used in combination with high-speed movie and other movie functions. And they also have something similar for images also. So that's really nice, you know, if you're waiting for that perfect shot, that perfect video to come, you're at a family reunion, you're at a ball game, anything really, and you put it up and you press the button and you're about 2 seconds too late, you're getting the second half of the action. With this pre-record movie, you didn't miss it, you know. If you're waiting and you're ready to take it and it happens and you press the button, unlike other technologies, again I'm kind of reiterating myself here, but it's saved, and that's really, really cool. Casio did a great job with that, because it's so frustrating when you miss that shot. I'm not sure how many of you guys out there are really interested in photography and all that, but for me, if I miss a shot, I get really frustrated. I really do. I get kind of angry if you ask the people around me, because I really, really wanted to get that shot, but I couldn't. Now the cons. This is definitely not a pick up and play device. The learning curve is pretty significant. I consider myself pretty techno-savvy, if you will, but it took me a while to figure out this device, and I'm still learning some of the features about it. Another thing, it's really easy to delete all your content. When you press the delete button, you have the option to cancel, delete, and delete all. If you accidentally press that delete all button, there's no second screen to save you. All your stuff is gone. If this happened to me, I would be so frustrated. I'd be physically sick with myself if I went through the whole day shooting nice, good-looking pictures, shooting in HD, sometimes maybe shooting in 1200 frames per second, super slow-mo, and I accidentally deleted all of it. I would be very, very frustrated, and it would be very irritating to me. So Casio, pump some new software down onto your devices. Do not make it that easy to delete everything. The price is another con for me. We talked about being better than the sum of its parts, so if you're looking for a super slow-mo camera with HD functionality, and you're also looking for a regular camera to take your pictures, it may be a savings for you to actually go in and get this. But if you're like me and you already have a camera, you may want to, or if you're somebody that already has a regular camera, you may want to look elsewhere for a different device to be your dedicated camcorder, just so you have better images and better video in 2 different devices. But if you're looking for just one device, then price would actually be a pro for you. Just something to keep in mind. But at that price, I think 6 megapixels is a little bit too low. You know, if you go into even a Target or a Best Buy, you're just shot with, you know, devices that are 10 megapixel, 12 megapixel. There's actually cell phones now that are 12 megapixel. So 6 megapixel in a dedicated camera is really too low. My final con with it is that I wish slow-mo was at a higher resolution. Now I know that would be really expensive if they did it, and it would be, and this is in 1200 frames per second in a consumer device is still a new technology. But for me, recording in HD is what I do. When I capture the moment, even if I'm on the Flip Minnow, that's still 720p. I have the Flip Minnow HD. So if I wanna, for me, it really may not be worth it if I'm making video and I'm gonna edit that into a movie that's all gonna be exported in 720p, than to put in something that's at 1200 frames per second. Because even though that looks really cool if you just look at that clip, when you look at it compared to everything else, and when it's exported in the same settings as the other video in your movie, it's going to look really terrible. So there is just my review of the Casio EX-F1.